Hello boys and squirrels, welcome back to my channel. How do you guys like my new hair? I am feeling extra fierce with this like pink to light pink slash silver ombre. I'm so happy with it. Thank you, Isaac. I will link his IG down below. But the reason that we are here today is because I found this amazing hard candy eyeshadow palette that reminded me a lot of the Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette. Here they are, and I wanted to see if this could be a cheap but, you know, useful and good quality dupe for this. The price points are quite different. The hard candy is $10 and the rose gold palette is $65. So $55 difference, pretty crazy. So before I get into swatches and the actual application, I'm just gonna get into some of the little like details of each palette. The Huda Beauty Rose Gold palette has 18 shadows. There are 10 matte shadows, 5 foiled shadows, which are like the really buttery, like creamy ones, and then there's like 3 of the I don't really know like how to describe them. They are almost like pressed glitters where they're like kind of chunky. You usually have to apply them with a wet brush. In this hard candy palette there are 6 matte shadows, and then it looks like there's 5 or 6 foiled shadows, and then like 3 more glittery shadows. So you can see that they're not completely alike, but they do have some similar shades. I'm gonna do some quick swatches of like the similar shades that I can find on my arms and show you guys the difference. So I'm gonna take the black from the hard candy palette. And then I'm gonna do the black from the Huda palette. So this is the hard candy and this is the Huda. The hard candy is definitely a little more like chalky, whereas the Huda is more creamy. Now I'm gonna do the pink from the hard candy palette. And now the pink from the Huda. So kind of the same thing here. You can see that the hard candy is just a little less pigmented, a little more chalky. I'm gonna take this like peachy pink color that has like a rose gold slash gold shimmer in it from the hard candy palette. Ooh, that's buttery. And then taking that similar shade from the Huda palette. So as you can see, the actual color is slightly different. The hard candy is more pink, whereas the Huda is like a little more rosy toned, like peachy toned. The Huda is also more like duochrome, where it kind of shifts as you move, and then the hard candy is just like a straight, like it just has sparkle in it, but it's not really duochrome. So here's for the fun part. I'm gonna do one eye with the hard candy palette and one eye with the Huda Beauty palette. You know, try to recreate the same look on both eyes and see if you can like notice a difference between the 2 eyes. For my transition shade, I'm gonna be taking this color from the hard candy palette. Just like a soft, like pinkish taupe color, and I'm just gonna run that through the crease. And then from the Huda palette for the other eye, I'm gonna take the shade Shy. I'm not sure if you guys can really tell, but this seems to be like slightly lighter and cooler than this one, but you know, I wouldn't say they're an exact dupe, but they are pretty close. Now I'm gonna go in with this hot pink from the hard candy palette. I just like can't get away from pinks ever since Valentine's Day. And now that my hair is pink, like it's so easy to just do pink shadow. I'm just gonna blend that out because we can't have no unblended shadows up in here. And now I'm gonna take the bright pink shade from the Huda palette. It seems to me like the colors aren't getting like muddled as quickly as the hard candy one did. To be fair though, there might have been some color on my brush from another previous look. That was probably it. So here are the 2 eyes so far. I mean, they look like pretty darn similar. The only thing that I can think of is that the Huda looks a little more like soft, like finished almost, like the shadows are like a little creamier. So I'm gonna go ahead and cut my crease with a little bit of the Huda foundation. Now for the hard candy side, I'm gonna go in with this red on this like really tiny detail brush and go around the perimeter of where I just put all that concealer. Some people would do this step before they cut their crease, but sometimes I don't know like the shape that I'm going for on the lid. So sometimes I'll like do, you know, the whole shebang and then I'll cut it, and the shape of the eyeshadow doesn't really like work with the crease shape, if that makes sense, like the shape that I draw out with my concealer. So I like to do this to where I know the exact shape that I want, and then I can like build on that shape. And honestly, if you like mess up, you can just cut the crease again. And then with that same little detail brush, I'm going over that with the pink and blending the red into the pink. And then to soften that, I'm going in with my little blending brush and just kind of smoothing out those edges. And now for the Huda side, I am doing the same thing with the red and the pink. Seems to me that the Huda side is blending a little easier, like blending the two shadows together. But you would like really have to look hard to notice that, honestly. The one thing about this hard candy palette that is kind of frustrating is it doesn't have like a matte brown shadow. The Huda definitely has a few matte brown shadows. It has this one, which is more of like a dark plum, and then this one right here. This one also has a few more transition shade colors. Even though this only has 3 less shadows than the Huda, I feel like it's a little harder to work with because half of these shades are shimmers. I'm gonna try using the black somehow, and I don't know if I'm gonna like how it's gonna turn out, but YOLO. I'm gonna take the black from the hard candy palette on this little tiny packing brush, and I'm gonna put that on the outer corners. And I'm gonna do it in like a V shape, so I want it to go across because I'm gonna leave this middle part open for some shimmer. This black is working really well. I was actually surprised at like how pigmented it is. And then doing the same on the inner corner. I used the Huda Beauty foundation as my base for cutting the crease, and that for me works really well. It's almost like sticky, so it really grabs onto the pigment from eyeshadows. And now I'm gonna take the black from the Huda Beauty palette. You ever like do one eye better, so then you have to intentionally sabotage the other eye to like make them look even because like you just try fixing the other one and it doesn't work? Okay, so like weirdly enough, I like the black from the hard candy palette more than the black from the Huda palette. So I'm done with the black, and now I'm going to add in the shimmer, which is gonna make everything like 20 times better because right now I'm looking like a fool. I'm really sad because I wanted to use that really pretty like pinky rose gold color that I swatched in the beginning, but they're too different from each other, so I'm gonna have to pick another shade. I think I'm gonna use the gold from each palette. I'm a thirsty bitch. So for both shadows, I'm gonna get my brush wet. Oh, that's pretty. And then I'm gonna try to blend them out a little bit, or blend them together, I guess. When I get the hard candy shadows wet, it picks up a bunch of the eyeshadow, like almost a little too much, so I'm kind of having to like mix it out on my hands before I put it on my eyes or else it gets all clumpy. And now I'm going in with the Huda Gold with a wet brush. And then I'm gonna blend these out just like I did on the other eye. The Huda Gold is definitely not mixing with the black as easily, so I'm gonna go over it with a little more gold. I really wish that the hard candy palette had like a darker brown because I would love to deepen that red pink situation that I got going on and make it a little more defined, but the hard candy palette doesn't have a matte darker shadow. I mean, I could use the black, but I already like used the black on my lids and I don't want those to kind of mesh together. So if the hard candy palette had something like this, that would be the perfect shade to deepen that crease. I think I'm going to use a little bit of that shade just to do it on this eye and like show you guys the difference, and then I'll do it on the other eye, and just don't tell anyone that I used the Huda palette on the hard candy side, okay? It'll be our little secret. The shade is called Bossy, which is like so fitting for me. As you can see, it's pretty subtle, but it does make a difference. So I'm gonna cheat and I'm gonna put that on the other side. So here is the finished look using the two different palettes on two eyes, and I have to say, like, they look pretty darn similar from, you know, this far away. I think in person I can tell like the differences just slightly though. Like, the only thing with the hard candy palette is that I would say some of the matte shadows are not as pigmented. The foils aren't like duochromed, you know, they're just one color. But honestly, performance-wise, like, I think if you wore the hard candy palette and you told people it was the Huda Beauty palette, I don't think they would second guess it. Like, it's a really good dupe for $10. Like I said, my one concern with the hard candy palette is that it does not have a darker brown or like dark purple matte shade that the Huda Beauty palette has. I think if they had taken away maybe like one or two shimmer shades and added in some more darker matte shades, it would have been like the perfect palette. I did love the black from the hard candy palette though. Like, in my opinion, that black shadow was better than the Huda one, which, like I said, was really surprising to me. I think both palettes are great, you know, I own both, I love them both, but I definitely think if you don't have $65 to spend on eyeshadow, that the hard candy palette will do the job for you. Alright guys, thank you so much for tuning in. If you guys like this video, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up and hopefully subscribe to my channel. I hope you all have a great rest of your day, and I will see you next time. Bye!